ahead and get started. Everyone, welcome to the 2025 organizational meeting for the Planning Commission for the City of Gahanna. I am Mayor Laurie Jadwin. You typically do not see me sitting in this seat, certainly during a Planning Commission meeting. I do not have a role in Planning Commission. However, because it is the organizational meeting, tonight's a little different. We have to swear in some new members who are being reappointed to their 3-year terms to serve on the commission. And then there will be an election of the chair for the new year. I will lead the meeting until that chair is elected and then turn the meeting over to that chair. But first, so that we have a full commission to conduct business this evening, I will administer the oath of office to 2 of our reappointed members, Mr. Michael Greenberg and Mr. Tom Shapaka. If you could join me, please, in front of the flag. Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Tom Shapaka,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and statutes of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution and statutes of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Gahanna,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Gahanna,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
honestly,
honestly,
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as a Planning Commission member
as a Planning Commission member
for the City of Gahanna,
for the City of Gahanna,
to which I have been appointed,
to which I have been appointed.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you and congratulations. Thank you for your service.
Mayor.
Appreciate it. We will have your oaths of office. I'll sign those and pass those to you. One copy goes to you, and then the signed copy goes to the clerk, so we can keep that for record. Okay, now that we have a full official commission for the new year, I will, the what? What did you say?
That's more than the president has.
That would be true. Thank you, Mr. Greenberg. That's true. So I will now officially call the meeting to order. And first, before we call roll, we will please stand. Mr. Tamarkin, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated, everyone. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Greenberg.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Mako.
Here.
Pollier.
Yes, here.
Shapaka.
Here.
Soriano.
Here.
Tamarkin.
here.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Our first order of business is the election of chair. So I will now open the floor to nominations for chair for the 2025 Planning Commissions. Do I have any nominations?
Madam Mayor, I nominate John Hicks for chair for 2025.
We have a nomination by Mr. Tamarkin of John Hicks to be chair. Mr. Hicks, do you accept that nomination?
I do, yes.
All right. Do we have any other nominations? Speak now or forever hold your peace. I hear none. So with that, nominations are closed. Now I need a motion I need a motion, correct? I believe. That was open the floor to nominations. Now we need a motion to elect John Hicks as chair for the 2025 Planning Commission. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Greenberg.
Motion by Mr. Greenberg. Do I have a second?
Second, Mako.
Second by Mr. Mako. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Greenberg.
Yes.
Mako.
Yes.
Hicks.
Yes.
Pollier.
Yes.
Shapaka.
Yes.
Soriano.
Yes.
Tamarkin.
Yes.
And in a unanimous decision, I now turn this meeting over to our new chair, Mr. John Hicks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Commission members, for trusting in me to serve in this role. I'm going to suggest a couple of changes, which I'll share as we go through the agenda, that might help with my lack of voice. But the next order of business is to elect a vice chair. So I'll open the floor for nominations for vice chair. Are there nominations for vice chair?
Mr. Chair, I nominate Ms. Pollier for vice chair.
There's been a nomination for Ms. Sarah Pollier. Ms. Pollier, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair? I will now close the nominations for vice chair and ask for a motion to elect Ms. Pallier as vice chair.
So moved, Greenberg.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved by Mr. Greenberg, seconded by Mr. Shephaka to elect Ms. Pallier as vice chair. Roll call, please.
Greenberg,
Yes.
Shephaka,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Mako,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Suriano,
Yes.
Tamarkin.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Pallier, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Please assume your position.
Give your chair back.
Thank you.
Might find the chair a little low for your liking.
I'll raise it.
You'll adjust.
He just likes sitting next to us.
The next order of business for the organizational meeting is to establish the day and time of our regular meetings. According to our rules of procedure, the day and time of our meetings are the first and third Wednesdays of the month at 7 PM, except for the months of November and December.
Flip-flop that.
Flip-flop, thank
Yeah.
you. So I probably should have read it better. So the second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 7 PM, with the exception of November and December, when we move to the first and third Wednesday for the holidays. Is there, I don't believe that needs to be voted on. So that is the established day and time of our regular meetings, and then workshops will be scheduled as needed. Next order of business is to establish the council liaison. We've had a request to return to assigning a planning commission member to be the council liaison. So for the upcoming year, Ms. Pollier will be the council liaison for the planning commission. Next order of business is to appoint a member to the Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council for a term expiring December 31st, 2027. And Michael Suriano will be that appointment. Thank you for both for agreeing to serve. And that concludes the organizational meeting. So we will now call to order the regular meeting of the Planning Commission. Could I have a roll call, please?
Greenberg,
Here.
Hicks,
Here.
Mako,
Here.
Polly,
Here.
Shephaka,
Here.
Suriano,
Here.
Tamarkin.
Here.
Thank you. The next order of business are additions and corrections to the agenda. So, Ms. McGuire, I believe we do have a correction.
We do have one correction. Application DP-0001-2025 will be moved to the next Planning Commission meeting at the request of the applicant.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the prior meeting. So is there a motion to approve the minutes from the December 18th meeting?
Motion to approve minutes, Shephaka?
Is there a second?
Second, Greenberg.
So moved by Mr. Shephaka, seconded by Mr. Greenberg to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shephaka,
Yes.
Greenberg,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Mako,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Suriano,
Abstain.
Tamarkin.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the swearing in of applicants and speakers. So those that are wish to present or speak during public comment, please make sure that you filled out a speaker slip and turned it into the clerk. And I'll now ask you to direct your attention to our Assistant City Attorney for further instructions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are now at the public hearing portion of the meeting. The public hearing will operate as follows. Administrative staff will make a presentation or comment on the application. The applicant or their representative may then make a presentation or comment on the application. The applicant has 10 minutes to present, and additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. Public comment will then be open for 3 minutes allowed per speaker. Additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. Speakers must complete a speaker slip and come to the podium and state their name and address. The applicant will then be given 10 minutes to comment. Additional time may be requested. Permission is at the discretion of the chair. If there is more than one application pending for a particular address, the presentation on each application may be consolidated and presented as one. At this time, will persons wishing to present testimony this evening please rise and raise your right hand to be sworn in? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, state I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. We will now move into the application portion of the agenda. And one of the changes that I'm going to implement for this upcoming year is to ask the clerk to read the applications into the record. Her voice sounds nicer than mine. So with that, Ms. McGuire, could you please read the first application into the record?
Sure. V-0001-2025, to consider a variance application to vary Chapter 1103.08E, medium lot residential of the codified ordinances of the City of Gahanna for property located at 70 High Meadow Drive, parcel ID 025008120, current zoning R2, medium lot residential. Andrew Wallenmeyer, applicant.
Thank you. I will now turn the meeting over to the staff for presentation.
The first variance application of the night is at 70 High Meadow Drive. Here is a zoning map of the area. You can see the property is zoned R2, which is medium lot residential. The applicant is requesting approval of a variance to allow a 72 square foot shed to the side of an existing home and also within a side yard setback. The zoning code states that all accessory structures must be located to the rear of the principal structure on the lot. The zoning code also requires for all lots zoned R2 that accessory structures be located at least 5 feet from the side yard. The proposed shed is 4 feet from the east property line, so it encroaches 1 foot into the required setback. The shed would be approximately 45 feet from the front property line and installed on an existing concrete pad adjacent to the home. The applicant states that this is the best location for the shed due to the constant flooding in the rear yard, as well as the yard slope. A large portion of the backyard is located within the 500-year floodplain, which is not subject to flood insurance or additional floodplain permitting. However, it is still subject to flooding. The applicant provided some photos and videos showing evidence of flooding in 2015, 2019, and 2024. Here is a site plan. The shaded purple area on the northern end of the property is the 500-year floodplain. The proposed shed is shown in blue just to the east of the home, and you can also see the 4-foot side yard setback. Here are some images that were provided by the applicant showing flooding on the property. The image in the middle also shows some damage to fences, a bridge, and the play structure in the rear yard. Here are the existing conditions on the property. The images on the left show the existing concrete pad next to the home, and the image on the right shows the slope of the rear yard. This is a street view image of the property. The location of the shed is shown inside of the red box, so it would be visible from the right-of-way. If approved, the commission can add a condition for screening if desired. Here's a rendering of what the shed would look like. And then there are 2 code sections included in this variance application. The first requires that accessory structures are placed to the rear of the primary structure. As mentioned, the shed would be located to the side of the structure. The second is that accessory structures must be at least 5 feet from the side property line, and the proposed shed is only 4 feet from the east property line. Here is the standard variance criteria that must be met in order for the application to be approved. Finally, staff recommends approval of the variance as submitted. As shown in the previous slides, the lot is sloped and flooding in the rear yard could damage a shed. Due to this, there are limited locations on the lot where a shed could be placed. Additionally, Planning Commission approved a variance for a shed to the side of a home in December of 2023, and this property also had significant sloping in the rear yard that limited where accessory structures could be placed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kapka. We'll now open the public comment portion of this application. Mr. Wallenmeyer, would you like to make any comments as the applicant? If you could please state your name, address, in relation to the project.
Yes, my name is Andrew Wallenmeyer. I live at 70 High Meadow Drive here in Gahanna. So pretty much everything was in the application. I appreciate the Planning Commission taking the time to review this. There is a 45-degree slope in the backyard, and you could see the flooding that has caused significant damage in the past. Our play set in 2019 resulted in about $600. You can see it, there's about $600 in damage to the play set. That again, anything that's resting in there, our insurance will not cover or replace. And the pictures in the bottom there of that picture from 2019, there was about a 30-foot wide flooding that rushed through the area. And that happens quite frequently. I've witnessed it more since COVID, being at home, working remotely. My wife used to tell me about it and said it would happen quite a bit. So I've been witness to that quite a bit. So you can see it leaves quite a bit of damage. So I'd hate to put a structure down there that to get damaged. And also being next to the garage would allow us more access for like our children's bikes, rather than going down to the bottom of a hill to get out and bringing back up. Because anyone with kids knows that those bikes are just going to end up in the front yard and not put away. So yeah, that's really the reason for our request. We'd like to be able to put up a shed, clean up our yard and our space so that we don't have any unwanted eyesores in our neighborhood for our neighbors.
Thank you, Mr. Wallenmeyer.
Thank you.
I did not receive any speaker slips, but is there anybody else from the public that would like to comment on this application? Seeing none, I will close the public comment and open it up to the commission for questions. Starting on my right, Mr. Greenberg.
Oh, we're changing that big time.
Another change.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question to the applicant, if you come forward. What are you typically going to keep inside the shed?
It would be bicycles, mowing, lawn equipment, basic yard tools and utensils and things like that, just to help us declutter our garage. And I think in even one of the pictures you can see we already have some things sitting on that concrete pad that we would like to put inside of an enclosure where they can stay secured from the weather.
Thank you. And are you planning any screening from the front right away?
Not at this time. The pad sits roughly 10 feet behind the front of the garage. So it does sit back quite a bit. And I think there was a picture that taken from the street view where you can see it. It's pretty well screened from the trees that are there. I'm sure this time of year you can see a little further back there. Right now our trash cans usually sit around the side for ease of access. But we would be open to screening if required.
Okay, thank you. And for the city, this is our new code, is that correct? New code requirements that are being discussed here?
A variance application would still be required under the former code as well.
But are there any differences between the two codes?
I think the side yard setback might have been reduced slightly, I'm not sure. But the requirement for accessory structures to be to the rear was in the former code as well.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greenberg. Mr. Suriano.
Yes. Is the shed intended to be on, does it have a foundation or is it on skids? Like,
It would be, so I'm working with a Tough Shed, and they elevate it up onto a structured floor, and it would be anchored directly to the concrete slab that's existing.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Tamarkin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at the rendering, actually, that is on the screen right now, we have a ramp coming down from the door. So that will move into the 4-foot easement per se. You know, we're already moving from, you're requesting from 5 foot to 4 foot, and they have the ramp going in there. So would that ramp be considered part of the accessory structure, or would that ramp be considered part of the pad that would be allowed?
The ramp, actually, I'm not sure why they included that in the rendering. I'm not intending to get a ramp for this, for the shed, and if we were, it would fall inside of that 4-foot area, and it would probably go to the edge of the concrete pad, which is, the concrete pad is about 2 feet from the property line. So it would fall within that 4 feet, but again, that was not an intention to have the ramp.
So if you have the pad, if your building's up on skids, the door's gonna be 2, 3, 4 inches off the ground, and you're gonna just leave that as is and pull your
Quite
brakes and your lawnmower over the little
Possibly,
hole.
yes. The other alternative is to not put it onto skids that are raised up, because there is a concrete pad there. They could build it directly on the pad as well. Then there would be no elevation.
But again, your intention is not to have that ramp?
As of right now,
Because I think that
correct, yes.
ramp would be in violation of the variance.
Yes, if there was a ramp, it would not be a permanent structure. It could be lowered and
Okay.
removed. So it would not be a permanent structure within that right-of-way.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tamarkin. Mr. Shipaka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So our concern when we put a shed up against the building, things collecting between the, excuse me, between the building and the shed, is this going to butt directly to the house?
Yeah, it will be pretty much right next to the home. So there will not be ladders or things of that nature being shoved in between the home and the structure.
Is there any kind of trim or something that can keep things from getting in there, climbing in there? I mean, just a concern, since you are going to butt it up. We usually like to have a good 3-foot clearance between the structure and the house, and here with the setback that you have is not allowing that. I would say that if you're going to put that up against the building, put it up against the building so that nothing can get in there. The other concern I have is with the location of the door. The center location of that makes it easy access to store things to the left and right. Does your neighbor have any objection to you actually, you're going to have to get on his property a little bit if he puts up a fence there?
Well, actually, if you could even go back to show where we have a wonderful relationship with our neighbors. That section of side yard there, he and I kind of fight over mowing it. He tries to do it, and I try to do it, and he's always out there saying, "You don't have to mow my yard." So we actually have a wonderful relationship with our neighbors. I don't think that would be an issue at all. They actually texted me yesterday to ask if they needed to be here today. She's recovering from knee surgery. So she's looking for an excuse to get out. I told her she could come if she had objections, but she said she would just like to come and help in any way to get this approved for us. So.
Good. The other question I have is, I know this is variance related, but if you put it in, we don't really get to pick the color. Do you have a complementary color to the house in mind?
Yeah, so the pictures I took last year, our house was kind of a cream color after some weather damage in 2023. You can see the picture of the house. It's now actually a dark gray siding. So I was picking a gray color to match with the home. I'm not planning to do any bright red, so no buckeye, scarlet, and gray colors, or blue or anything. I do want it to be, I really don't want anybody to notice that it's there, quite honestly. I would like it to be back.
So that brings up the question of screening again, a little bit of landscaping in front of it.
Yeah, my wife has mentioned to me about putting up some arborvitae to help screen that off from the street if needed.
I do appreciate the pictures. You went to great trouble to create flooding to state your cause. So, good job.
Thank you.
No other questions, Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Shipaka. Mr. Mako.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, Mr. Shipaka asked 2 of my 3 questions, so I'm kind of late to the game here. But I did have questions about whether it's going to be flush to the existing building, and I think that was covered. Then also about the concerns with the neighbor, and it sounds like that's also been addressed. The third question I have was, how long has that concrete pad been there?
The concrete pad was poured in April of 2023. We're on High Meadow Drive, so we were part of the sidewalk program that the city did. And so we had our own contractor come out, and he put in the pad, and he redid our driveway, and he did the sidewalk paneling that the city had indicated needed to be replaced.
Okay. And then finally, just, I guess, for my own knowledge, what's the flooding source back in the back of your, is that a named creek or just?
So if I have to guess, we have shale that shows up down there, so I would assume this was probably a creek bed before the neighborhood was built. There are woods behind us that are between our properties and the Christopher Wren Apartments that are off Morse Road. And we explore the woods sometimes and go back there, and you can find there is a creek bed further up. The flooding, again, I'm not an engineer in any way, shape, or form, but there are several culverts from the apartments that clear their parking lots that spill into that area. So when it rains pretty heavily, it comes rushing through there quite a bit. You can see, I mean, it's just that bridge structure from my neighbor's property, it gets pretty heavy helping him move that back. We think we have it anchored down pretty well now that it won't continue to move over or flood now, but yeah. I would say it happens at least once a month during the raining seasons from March through September.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Pollier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one question. I was just looking at some of these pictures. It looks like on Figure 10, 2 properties over, it looks like there is a shed. Is that a different type of do they not share the same slope that you share, or that you have?
I am not sure. So that was an existing shed. That was an existing structure when we moved into the neighborhood or into the home 15 years ago. I don't believe they keep anything in that anymore, but we have seen it get quite a bit of water, get pretty high. But where they are at, actually, I would say the force of the water is greater once it has gone past their property to ours, as their fence on numerous occasions has been ripped away and flows through. And you can actually, a lot of that debris, there are sections of fence from their yard. So the water does intensify as it comes through our property. Let's see, the current residents moved in there in, I think, 2021, and I do not believe they keep anything in that shed. The previous tenants or the previous owners who were there for roughly 4 years, I know they had some items damaged when they kept it in the shed, and the residents who were there before them also had items damaged when they had it in that little playhouse shed.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from the commission? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the variance application?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the variance application number V0001-2025 with the condition that landscape screening is placed on front for the to the road.
All right, we have a motion with a modification made by Mr. Chapaka. Is there a second?
Second, Soriano.
Second by Mr. Soriano. Any discussion on the motion?
I'm going to be in favor of the variance, given the flooding and the potential hazard that creates if the shed were to be flooded or drift away into some adjacent property. So,
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Chapaka.
Yes.
Soriano.
yes.
Mako.
Yes.
Pollier.
Yes.
Tamarkin.
Yes.
Greenberg.
Yes.
Hicks.
Abstain due to a conflict of interest. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. McGuire, could you please read the second application into the record?
Yes. V-0002-2025, to consider a variance application to vary Chapter 1103.07E large lot residential of the codified ordinances of the City of Gahanna for property located at 142 Spring Park Place, parcel ID 025-011562, current zoning R1, large lot residential, James Knox, applicant.
Thank you. At this point, we'll turn the meeting over to the administration for their presentation.
The next variance application is at 142 Spring Park Place, which is zoned R1, large lot residential. The applicant is requesting approval of a variance to allow a screened-in porch within a rear yard setback. The porch would be 256 square feet and attached to the rear of the existing home. In the R1 zoning district, there is a 25-foot rear yard setback. The addition would be 20 feet from the north property line at its closest point, so it encroaches 5 foot into that setback. The screened-in porch would be in the location of the existing concrete patio. Here is a site plan. The porch is shown in blue, and you can see the 20-foot setback from the north property line. Since the porch is at a slant, it's not entirely 5 feet within that setback, just a portion of it is. And then you can see the remaining concrete patio in the shaded area around the porch. This is an aerial view of the site that shows some of the mature trees and other landscaping on the north and west sides of the property that would help to partially screen the porch. Here are elevations of the porch. You can see it's attached to the rear of the home, and it is 14 feet tall at its highest point. There's one code section associated with this variance. It states that the principal structure must be at least 25 feet from the rear property line, and the addition is 20 feet from the rear property line at its closest point. Once again, here is the standard variance criteria that must be met in order for the application to be approved. Staff recommends approval of the variance as submitted. The porch would be constructed over the existing footprint of the concrete patio, and it would not be visible from the right-of-way based on the configuration of the home on the lot. As shown in one of the previous slides, there's also mature foliage to the north and west to partially screen the porch. However, it is worth noting there is no fence on the property or any of the neighboring properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kapka. Would the applicant like to comment on the application? If so, please approach the podium and state your name, address, and relationship to the project.
My name is Jeff Borovets, and I'm with Suncraft. We're the contractor to build the screen porch. And James Knox is the applicant. He works for Suncraft. He put the proposal together. Pretty much as you've described it is correct. I think there was some question as to which property line is the rear property line, because the house does sit at a 45-degree angle, and the lot is very large. So if that top line would be the side yard property line, I think it's a 15-foot setback, and the left property line could then be the rear property line. There was really no exact designation as to which is the rear property line, so that was part of this variance application. And as you know, it is a large lot and heavily treed, so, and it's just the corner of the porch that's encroaching to the property line to the top of the page. So that's it.
I did not receive any speaker slips relating to this application, but is there anybody else that would like to make comments on the application? Seeing none, we will now turn it over to the commission for questions, starting with Mr. Greenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sophia, were there any comments from any neighbors?
No, I did not receive any.
Is there going to be, how is the addition going to be painted? What colors?
It'll match the house, same color as the house.
Okay, great.
Roof will match, the trim matches, the color matches, everything, all the details. It'll look like it was built with the house.
Thank you. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Soriano.
Actually, no, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Tamarkin?
I was trying to think of a difficult question for Mr. Moravitz, but I don't have any.
There'll be another chance if you think
Thank
of
you.
one. Mr. Shipaka?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mako?
Just one quick question. So no easements, they're in the back. I noticed on the site plan, you had a 10-foot easement on the one side and in the front, but no easements in the back?
Correct.
And then kind of similar question for the previous application, this concrete patio that there's existing, how long has that been there? Do you have any idea?
I do not know.
Okay. And just to reiterate, no comments, pro or con from any of the neighbors?
Correct. No
Okay.
comments from the neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions,
That I
Mr.
know.
Chair. Okay,
Thank you. Ms. Pollier?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
All right, I have one question for the administration. How do we define what is a rear yard?
A rear yard is whatever is directly across from the front yard. So we would consider the north property line a rear yard as well as the west property line. And then the east, south, and southeast property, no, the east and south property lines would be side yards, and then that curved property line is the front yard.
So a question to the applicant, do you agree with that? Does that answer your question on what is?
That's the point I was trying to make, that they're actually, it's not clear which is a rear property line, which is a side. The rear setback is 25 feet. The side yard, I believe, was 15 feet. So if we call that line that's to the top of the page, I don't think that's north. I think north is actually to the right of the page. If we call that a side, then we don't even need to be here. The zoning department in Gahanna couldn't really identify the rear or side, so they decided we should have a variance, and that's why we're here. So if you call the line on the left the rear, which the majority of the backyard is to the left, and the house really sits exactly at a 45-degree angle, and if you call the front yard the curve, then who's to say where it is?
Thank you, that answers my question. Were there any further questions from the commission? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve this application?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve V-0002-2025.
We have a motion by Mr. Tamarkin. Is there a second?
Second, Pollier.
Second by Ms. Pollier. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Tamarkin,
Yes.
Pollier,
Yes.
Greenberg,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Mako,
Yes.
Shipaka,
Yes.
Suriano.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. McGuire, could you please read the third application into the record?
Yes, that is V-0003-2025, to consider a variance application to vary Chapter 1109.01H1, parking, access, and circulation of the codified ordinances of the City of Gahanna for property located at 817 North Hamilton Road, parcel ID 025-001918, current zoning RI, restricted institutional, one church, Brent Allen applicant.
Thank you. I'll now turn it over to the administration for their presentation.
The final variance application of the night is at 817 North Hamilton Road, which is the one church site, and it is zoned restricted institutional. Here is a brief history of the development of the site over the past few years or so. In June of 2017, there was an application for 233 new parking spaces on the lot. In April of 2023, there was another application for a new parking lot in the northeast corner of the site, which brings us to our current parking count of 561 spaces, not including the gravel lot. In October of 2023, a gravel lot was installed on the site without any approvals from the city, and applications were filed shortly after due to code enforcement action. That variance application and design review went to Planning Commission in June 2024. The applications were approved with an expiration date of December 31st, 2024. Therefore, a new variance application is required. In August of 2024, 3 applications were filed for a building addition and parking lot. Those were denied by Planning Commission. And then in October of 2024, 2 new applications for the same addition and parking lot were submitted. There have been no resubmittals since that date. Here is an aerial view of the site that shows each of the recently approved parking lots with the gravel lot in the bottom right-hand corner. So this variance application is to extend the deadline for the temporary gravel lot. As mentioned, it expired last year, so this application is for a 6-month extension. The applicant states that this extension is due to the fact that the application was denied, and they anticipate construction to now begin in summer of 2025, which is when the gravel lot would be removed. The gravel lot has not changed at all since the previous application. It's still the same size and in the same location. There is only 1 code section included with this application since it's a timeline extension. However, the lot still violates 13 total code sections. Here is a site plan. The previous application was filed under the former zoning code, so the setbacks were a bit different at that time. The new parking setback in the new zoning code is that it must be to the rear of the front facade of the primary building on the lot. So I did mark that new parking setback on the site plan for reference. Here are the existing conditions of the lot. You can see how visible it is from the right-of-way and the lack of existing screening. This is the 1 variance that is included with the application. The requirement is that all parking areas must be hard surfaced and gravel is not considered hard surfaced. This is the same variance criteria that must be met in order for the application to be approved. Staff recommends disapproval of the variance application as submitted. This is the same recommendation that was made at the June 2024 Planning Commission meeting for the same reasons as before. This includes that there are no other gravel lots in the immediate area, the high visibility from Hamilton Road, and the fact that it greatly encroaches into the front parking setback. And it is also inconsistent with 13 total code requirements. Many of these are due to the fact that the lot is gravel and temporary. In their review of the variance, the engineering department also states that they object to the application. Finally, the applicant has not demonstrated an ability to adhere to city regulations or proposed timelines. There has been ongoing code enforcement action on the site, and the city has not received a new submittal for the 2 applications since October. If the application is approved, staff recommends a strict timeline that would not be able to be extended again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kapka. We'll now open the public comment portion for this application. Would the applicant like to comment? Again, if you could please state your name, address, and relationship to the project.
I do. My name is Brent Allen. I live at 561 East Johnstown Road. I'm the Director of Operations at One Church. I'm new to the job, and I'm going to ask that our senior pastor come and explain to you the reasons why we're asking you to approve this variance again.
Thank you, Greg Ford, lead pastor at One Church. And last June, we came to you guys asking for temporary approval for the gravel lot. Currently, we park about 60 to 100 people on that lot per service, and we do 3 services on the weekend. So the alternative is people in an unsafe manner walking across Hamilton Road, parking across the street. And, you know, we had even had to tow people out of that space when it was sod. And so we had a staff member actually who is no longer on our staff who had made a decision to do that lot without us knowing it. And so we came to you guys asking for an extension of approval, and you were very clear, we heard you loud and clear, that it was not meant to be a permanent. And that was the concern, that a temporary solution turns into a permanent solution. And so the discussion at that time was around, you know, how quickly will we get this from gravel into an approved surface. And so we submitted in August the plan to do the entire site, and that wasn't approved. And so we've taken time to listen to our neighbors to try to come up with something that meets the needs of our church, that's satisfactory to the city and to our neighbors. We've been going back and forth with the city in that process, and so we are ready to get something in front of you here in February, and hopefully be able to get all of that moving and have the construction site moving. So that's why we're asking for this variance to be extended so that we can get that done, continue to serve our church, create a safe environment as best that we can.
Thank you. We received 2 speaker slips. The first, Mr. Pete Ferguson.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm the Pete Ferguson, president of Castle Pines Condominiums, which is the next door neighbor to the north of One Church. I live at 386 Castle Pines Drive. First, we want to thank the Planning Commission for the work you did in 2024. It was really nice. It really helped us. Castle Pines really recommends, and we understand how good you guys really were. We now have a privacy fence that is at the north west part of the first driveway. You have pictures, and if you want to look in the red dotted arrow where the star is, that is the new fence, 128 feet. And if you haven't seen it, you need to stop by because they did a really nice job on it. And we are certainly glad that One Church finally did that. And they've done a good job with us and been very good neighbors with us since that last time. The second section you see, we want to thank, first of all, I want to thank One Church for putting the fence up because it has made the building number 9 very safe and secure for our 3 single ladies that live there. Secondly, we have another subject we'd like to get on the record with the commission today to continue to have One Church continue with the next fence, which is called, if you look at that picture, it's called the natural barrier, which is trees that we as Castle Pines condominiums basically have put those in a long time ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, arborvitae, et cetera. One Church has come along and put in some smaller trees with the hopes of building them up and closing off some of the areas that are wide open. I have some pictures of the open areas that you can see that you have in front of you that show our buildings 1 and 2, and it shows how open and bare we are to the next door neighbors as their cars pull in, their headlights pull in and shine directly into our front windows. And there are 3 sections in there with the 2 buildings. And you can honestly see that at one time, our shrubs and our small leafing trees did a good job of screening that area. The city came out and looked at that and said it was 80% opaqueness. Today, it's not 80% opaqueness, and that's the other thing why we want to get it on the record, that we would like to have the city come back out and reevaluate that if possible. The flowering trees and shrubs are no more. The small arborvitae that are in there now obviously are very, very small. They're 4, 5, 6 feet at the max. Ours are in the process of 15 to 20 feet that you can see are there now. So the 80% opaqueness is basically gone. You can see how easy it is to look right in that first garage. That's building 1, the very first garage off Hamilton Road that you are looking at now. We would like to have the continuation of the fence they put in this past, basically in November, got the fence in mid-November, early December, which does a great job screening building 9. Now we would like to have the same kind of fence put in to screen buildings 1 and 2 to make up for the loss of the greenery that was there when the city came out and took pictures. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker slip is from John Fiala. So you don't wish to comment? Okay. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to comment? And Pastor Ford, would you or the other gentleman like to respond to the comments that we've heard? All right, seeing no other speakers, we'll now open it up to questions from the commission, starting with Mr. Greenberg.
I guess I'd ask either operations or the pastor come up. And so you said you've had discussions with neighbors. They just made a request about the fencing. Where does that stand?
Yeah, so the plan that we're going to give to you with the total site includes a lot of the discussions that we've had with the neighbors. So we have a whole team of people that has gone over, had running conversations, have stood in people's backyards, gone into their homes, looked through their perspective, wanting to do the very best we can. That, unless I'm missing something, this is about the variance for the southeast gravel lot. That would be included in the total site plan. That has nothing to do with today's variance. So
Okay.
when we bring that whole thing, we'll talk about our plan to essentially satisfy the neighborhood.
Okay, so I guess my concern is we gave a 6-month extension back in June, right? And it was missed.
Just to be clear, so the 80%, we have a certificate that says that we satisfied what was asked of us from this body. So the 80% opacity screening, we not only did that, but that was, my understanding, that certificate was given to us from the city that we did what we were asked to do.
I'm talking about the gravel lot now.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry. So gravel lot had a 6-month extension. I remember we had a lot of discussion about that as a group. There was concerns, and they wanted to make sure that everything was taken care of. So we gave you a pretty good extension, and now we're hearing that it wasn't adhered to, correct?
No, that's not correct. In June, you guys gave us a variance for the lot. And again, the goal is, we talked about when would we be able to make that gravel lot, when we'd be able to get rid of it.
Right.
We talked about the construction process, and a lot of that is contingent on things being approved of. So we felt like when we brought that plan in August, the plan in August was recommended by the city for approval. So we felt like we had done what we needed to do. We thought that we were going to be able to get that, which would put us into construction, and that, ultimately now we're a construction zone and we can take care of that. So that's why we're here, because you gave us to the end of the year. The end of the year is up, and now we're asking, since that timeline wasn't met, and again, we're doing the very best we can. We're not trying to be out of compliance. We're not trying to be, hard to work with. Ultimately, because that timeline didn't happen like it did, is why we're here asking for the extension. And again, hoping that as we bring the plan that we've been working feverishly on over the last several months, that will be approved, and then we won't need more extensions. That's the goal.
So with the schedule, when do you think that will be removed?
Yeah, so John, I can speak to this, or if you want to. Yeah, okay. So again, a lot of it is contingent on how this goes in terms of back and forth with the city. So we're doing our best. We feel the need to do this expeditiously, as efficiently as we can. So if we get this in February, we get in front of you guys either in February or March, ideally, then it's, again, some of the issues are out of our hands in terms of timeline of going back and forth with engineering, get everything approved. And so we're hoping to be in construction this summer. Really, ideally, I know that, at least my understanding is that this variance can go 6 months at a time. Ideally, if we could have an extension through the end of the year to be able to get ourselves into construction, that would be ideal, because we don't want to come back here in 6 months if things go slower than what we want them to, or there's some more back and forth, because again, we don't know. We hope that what we have, based on what we've heard, will satisfy all parties, but if it doesn't, it could go slower than what we want. And again, I know you guys don't want us back here in June saying, hey, we're almost there, can we have a little bit more time? So ideally, it'd be nice to be able to have the variance approved through the end of the year, because we absolutely plan to be in construction this year. But again, it's my understanding, I could be wrong, it's my understanding that the variance goes 6 months at a time, so that's what we're asking for.
No other questions?
Thank you. Mr. Suriano.
Yes, Mr. Ford. Do you know if relative to the sequencing of the construction project and the plans, does I think the gravel lot was, if I remember from June, in concert with addition to the west. Do you know if, like, relative to the sequencing of the overall master plan for the site, where that demo and where that happens in the sequence of construction? Is it first, in the middle? Is it at the end?
You talking about the gravel lot itself?
Yep.
It'd probably be at the end because we would use that as a, place to, landing zone for our, for equipment and things as we're doing. Obviously, like, we have people coming in and out, going to church on Sunday, so the more we can not disrupt the current parking that we already have, so it probably would be the last thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Tamarkin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to just follow up a little on Mr. Serrano's questioning. So this gravel lot is really contingent on the new construction of the northwest lot, which we declined here at some point. I don't have the time frame in front of us. So your time frame would be, well, let me ask that question. Is that this lot will be removed, if you had your way, when the new lot is built?
Oh, the new lot and the new auditorium. So we have a new auditorium that will be built, right next to that lot. So again, all the construction, we're gonna have heavy equipment, steel, things that will lay in that space. It'll be a construction zone. So yeah, but we're not gonna leave it a gravel lot. We'll rectify it with the construction of the project. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I guess it's two phases, so right now you park 60 to 70 cars in there,
60 to 100.
60 to 100 cars in there.
3 times.
3 times a day?
Yeah,
on
3 times
Sunday.
a Sunday, yeah.
So to remove that lot, you need somewhere to put 60 to 100 cars 3 times a day. So that is contingent on the new parking lot that has not been approved yet by this body to be built.
Yes,
So you need approval, then you need construction.
yes.
As far as the auditorium, I'm not a construction expert, but my guess is if we haven't approved that yet, that's not going to be finished by December 31st.
That's all part of, it will be all part of the same,
Right. But that won't be built and finished by this time next year,
no.
right? But a parking lot could be.
Yes.
So if we denied this application, where do these 60 to 100 cars 3 times a day go? So you have somewhere, we had a number, again, I didn't, 525 or 523 parking spots on site. Does that include the gravel lot?
No.
All right, so how often are those 525 spots completely full where you have to overflow into the gravel lot?
Every service.
Every service, 3 times every Sunday. So if that gravel lot wasn't there, those 60 to 100 cars are parking across the street at the Ohio
yes.
State Medical Center, CVS.
They're doing that, or some of them, people might go up and just park up there, even though you try to not, we direct traffic. We have police officers that we pay to come out and help direct traffic, but it'll either be people going across the street, trying to cross the street, which we used to have, or cars, again, before it was gravel, it was just grass. And people would go, we had a week where we had dump trucks tow trucks coming and having to pull people out because they were getting stuck. So it'll, more than likely, we'll do our very best to funnel them across the street, shuttle, do all of that, but then again, a lot of people don't wait on a shuttle, they start walking. It's just not ideal, it's not safe. So that's probably how it would play out. That's how it played out before.
So let's go back to and I know we're not here to have a hearing on the new parking lot, but you think you'll present that to us sometime in February?
We'll have it in front of you in February. Hope we can present it in February or 1st of March as soon as we get on the schedule.
Assuming we approve that, construction would start late spring, early summer.
That's it. That's the goal. Again, depending on how, going back and forth with engineering and getting the permits, getting everything approved, yes.
So even if we gave you a 6-month extension on this lot, that doesn't really solve the problem either.
Probably not. Well, we're hoping to be in construction at that point, then it's a construction zone. But that's why I was saying to the end of the year, ideally, we're in full construction.
Okay. That's the extent of my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shapaka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gravel lot. I think it's really on the books so that weeds just don't grow through it. I mean, it's
So
just
that what, weeds?
Yeah, just plants and, it's just open, a paved lot, you don't have that. I travel Hamilton a lot. I see the wonderful problem that you have with your cars. The lot now looks nice and pristine. You guys keep the grass cut, you guys keep it clean. If there is an extension with it, now we're in different seasons. Now things are gonna grow in it. It's gonna wanna grow in it. Are you having any kind of provisions right now that are in the spring to put something down to keep anything from growing in it?
So, yes.
Landscapers aware of that, has done that this past summer.
I'm very sympathetic to the situation you're in with the construction timeline with it. Is a year enough? I mean, would you, I would hate to visit this again in 6 months,
Yeah.
but if we give
So-
you a year, and if it goes over a year, at least within that timeline, if we have to revisit it again for another 3 or 4 months, we will see some progress to initiate that. So I think giving a year is a good compromise, because in that frame, we would have something after a year where we're really sitting.
Correct, I agree.
Your plan is to present something to us as soon as possible after you're talking to all of the neighbors.
Yes.
Very reasonable. Is that lit? Do you guys put, services are all during the daylight, there is no lighting there? Is that correct?
During the day.
Yeah.
9, 10:30, and noon.
And if it's there and the weeds are kept down and it is used for staging throughout the construction, I think it just doesn't generate any more questions on my part. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mako.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one, I guess, follow-up question. Again, this might be a reiteration. Again, why was the initial 6-month deadline not met? I'm still a little confused about that. So again, if you could just reiterate the
Yeah.
reason behind that.
Yeah, so it was back in June, and we had, communicated our intent to submit to the city the full site plan, and to then be in, our plan was to be in construction this fall. So we submitted the plan in August with the recommended approval from the city. We felt like it was going to come through, but in that meeting, it was denied. And so because of that, we immediately responded, going back and forth to find out, and we heard loud and clear from this body your desire. Just to be clear, we didn't just start talking to our neighbors about how to give them a high quality of life the best we can with a growing church and all the sounds of community. We didn't just start doing that after the last meeting. We've been doing that for a long time. Whether we've met expectations or not is up to other people, but we have absolutely made that attempt. So we understood that all of the changes weren't going to necessarily be everyone's favorite thing, but we felt because we had the recommended approval from the city that we were going to be able to pass it in August and be able to then be in construction. If that was the case, then we would have been doing a construction zone. It would all be being dealt with. So the fact that that didn't happen, and then we're really not wanting to just keep, coming back in here and not succeeding in getting it through, we really wanted to be careful, listen, go back, have more conversations, try to find how do we serve our church the best we can and meet those needs. At the same time, it is very important for us to be good neighbors, and we do want to be an addition to the city, something that adds value to the city. So taking the time to do that, there was a lot of back and forth, there was a lot of conversations, and so it just meant that the timeline was slowed down. That's it.
Okay. And the current parking lot that you have out there now, the gravel lot, is that adequate to meet your needs, or you still have people parking on that east side?
No, it's not adequate to meet our needs. That's why the full site project is extending the parking even more. We need more parking spaces than that. That's why it would be really hard if to take away 60 parking spaces from that gravel lot right now. That would be extremely difficult. So that's why, again, we're trying to be conscientious, make get everybody on the same page, try to please people as best we can as we're, moving forward, but it is not adequate. And that's why you'll see in the site plan, we're trying to do again, meet everybody's expectations in a way that's satisfactory, but also that is able to expand our lot in a way that we can park people. So no, to answer your question, no.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Pollier.
Just one, thank you. Excuse me. So my question, I guess, if we extend this variance for 6 months, a year, to give you the time to make changes to the final parking configuration plan that's going to be presented, one of the reasons you said you needed this time is because you were trying to make plans to better serve neighbors and things like that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You're trying to, I think I would be more inclined to extend this variance if I knew exactly what it is you were doing with regard to working with the neighbors. I know the last time you guys were here, there was a pretty packed house of people that were not in favor of any of your plans.
Yeah.
And they had some pretty valid concerns. And I know we gave some suggestions about maybe things that you could do to try to work with your neighbors a little bit better. So I just kind of want to know what you've been doing and what you are planning on doing.
Yeah, so thank you for asking that. We've done a lot. So we've done everything from go door to door at people's requests. Some of the neighbors would have asked us to see essentially our property or our lighting or things from their home or from their perspective. And so we've had representatives from our team that have gone house to house to do that. 9 months ago, a year ago, we had a meeting that we called with the neighbors. The city didn't ask us to do it. The neighbors didn't ask for it. We voluntarily opened it up and showed the plans of what we were doing. We listened to concerns. And, you guys know you can't necessarily make everybody happy on everything, but we tried to listen. What is reasonable? What can we do? And made a lot of those changes along the way. I could name a lot of those specifically. If you want, I want to be careful on time, but we've just done a lot of detailed things. On top of that, we've given them phone numbers, emails, and ongoing ways to communicate with us if something, is bothering them or something that we agreed upon doing isn't being executed. We've given them a mode of communication to give us feedback, to come back to them. So we've initiated quite a bit with our neighbors, everything from door to door to digital communication, and have made several changes along the way. And then our plans that we've come up with reflect, again, without getting into details of those plans, we had talked about where cars were being parked and concern that it was going to be too close to people's property lines and concerns about screening. All of that we've gone through and addressed in the new plan. I won't go into all that, but I think you're going to see that reflected when we bring the plan to you. So in terms of the modes of communication, it's been everything from eyeball to eyeball, door to door, to receiving emails, phone calls, and again, us initiating proactively.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have any further questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So Pastor Ford.
Yes, sir.
What if we follow or we see a similar cadence to the last time and the plan that you bring forth in February is not approved? What is your plan for this gravel parking lot if that happens?
Yeah, our plan, if it's not approved, is we'll eventually, we'll take the advice into consideration. We'll come back and we'll have to come up with a plan eventually, get it approved. And again, our hope is that this next one will. If it's not, we want to respond hopefully expeditiously enough to be in construction in 2025. We need to be in construction in 2025. We have, again, needs that need to be met within our own community. So we have to find a resolution, that again, that can get approved. So we'll be trying to do that as quickly as possible and trying to be in construction in this year.
So, I heard you loud and clear that the reason we're here now is because the plan wasn't approved last fall, and it was, the church's intent to already be in construction and have this gravel lot replaced. So I was just curious.
Yeah, I think the reality is, we heard everything you said. We've heard everything everybody said. We're bringing something that we believe addresses absolutely everything that we heard to the best that we can. We don't live under a belief that we're going to make everybody equally happy, but we think that it's very reasonable. So if it doesn't, we'll then listen to that and do our best to give a better plan. But that's our goal for February.
So the administration is asking for this lot to be removed. So if the development plan that will be coming in next year is not approved, are you open to removing this gravel lot?
I mean, we're open to doing whatever we need to do. I think the concern is this: okay, if we go sod, we go and we put grass on it, we put sod on it. Then when we're a construction zone and we have to stage stuff, then again, it's a whole different process when it's a construction zone. So it just doesn't really make sense in terms of resources. Doesn't make sense in terms of efficiency to go tear out, take out the gravel, put on sod, only to then have it be a construction zone and have to use it for staging and bring gravel in or whatever. It doesn't, so to me, it just doesn't make sense. I know it's not ideal, and I apologize for putting the commission in this position, and we're working very hard to try to rectify it.
Thank you. And a question for the administration. The applicant has indicated that they're under the impression that variances can come with a 6-month extension. Is that according to code, or is the commission able to establish whatever extension we feel is appropriate?
You can add whichever extension you feel is appropriate.
So it doesn't have to be 6 months. It can be 12 months or 18 months.
Correct.
Okay.
So in terms of order and is that something I need to request, or is that something that, so I'd like to request that we would have an approval through the end of this year, through December of 25.
All right. I think that would be helpful for the commission to know what your intentions or your request is. So.
And our intention is to be in construction before that, but that would be my request.
Those are all of my questions. Are there any further questions from the commission? Mr. Greenberg.
So if we extend 1 year to December of 2025, will you be finished?
No. We'll be in construction.
Okay, so the lot will not be removed, the gravel will not be removed this year?
We won't be parking cars there. We'll have construction equipment there.
Okay, so you're going to use it for the, right, you've stated that, but no cars will be parked there?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Suriano.
Yeah, if we extend, the gravel stays in place, construction starts, that becomes layout space for the new construction. At which point, things are happening, plans at that point have been approved, and things are moving. I guess question for the city, is there any stipulation, zoning otherwise, that would prohibit like construction, layout space, or in the current temporary lot location?
No.
Okay. Thanks.
Mr. Tamarkin.
I had the same question as Mr. Suriano.
Any other questions? Mr. Mako.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Who is your design engineer on this project?
Our Visioneering Studios.
Okay, and where are they in the process of getting those plans put together?
I'd like to introduce John Fiala, who's our GC.
Verdantis is the civil engineering firm that's doing the parking lot layout. Visioneering is the architectural firm doing it. We're hoping to have, excuse me, I got frog there. They're hoping to have all the drawings finished by the end of January here for submittal to planning, or actually to the city first, for review, trying to get on the planning commission either end of February, 1st of March is what the schedule is right now. It's taking a little bit longer because, of course, Thanksgiving, Christmas holidays, half the staffs are gone at those firms, so it's pushed back a little bit our timeline. We were hoping to have it submitted here in January, but it's looking like it'll be the end of January.
Okay, That answers my question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further questions?
Just one.
Yes, Mr. Greenberg.
So the plan that's going to come forward to us after the city looks at it and we will get it, will that address, in your opinion, the neighbors' concerns, including that fence that was discussed?
You're asking me if the plan includes the fence that the gentleman brought up?
Addressing the neighbors'
So,
concerns.
Yeah, it absolutely addresses the neighbors' concerns. We don't have that fence that he asked for because we had spent quite a bit of money in doing the screening, 80% opacity that was approved by the city. So in terms of adding a fence on top of that, no, that plan did not include that specific fence, but we have a ton of screening and a lot of attention to detail for the entire property, with great attention to our neighbors' conversation. Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further questions? Seeing none and hearing none, is there a motion to approve this application?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'd like to move for approval for item V-0003-2025 with the condition that the variance be in effect for 12 months.
I have a motion by Mr. Mako. Is there a second?
Second, Chipaka?
Second by Mr. Chipaka. So, Mr. Mako, for clarification, you said 12 months. So January the 8th of 2026?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Markin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to vote in favor of this. I don't like it. It's against the code, it's against the city, this lot doesn't really belong in this location. But it's a factor of this commission's denial, rightfully so, of the original parking plan and the addition of the new lot, which I'm going to call, again, the northwest lot. Because of the fact that we did not approve the original plans, and they're going to come back with a better plan and a better lot, it's very obvious that there's a shortage of parking at this facility, which is great. I think it's great for the community, it's great for the church, and therefore, this lot is the best of two evils right now. The other evil is people park either across the street at the former Big Bear, or people park on this lot after the gravel's been taken out, which now would be a mud pit until grass can be grown in April or May, and then after that on the grass. So I will be in favor of the one-year extension based on the circumstances that we did not originally approve the additional parking that is needed for this growing parish.
Thank you. Any further discussion? My thoughts on the application, if we were looking at a development plan today, I would generally be in support of it. I was in support of the development plan that came before us last fall. I felt some of the reasons from the neighbors, not the Castle Pines neighbors, but the neighborhood to the west and northwest were unreasonable, and they should not have been made part of the plan. So when the development plan does come in, I will be generally sympathetic to it. However, this variance I'm hearing is not going to be adhered to. The gravel lot will still remain even 12 months from now. So in my opinion, the variance application, the criteria for granting a variance are not met by this application. I do encourage, one church to proceed with the plans, and I look forward to seeing the development plan come back to us when that time comes. But I'm going to be a no for this application. All right, hearing no other discussion, can I have a roll call, please?
Mako.
Yes.
Chipaka.
Yes.
Pollyea.
No.
Suriano.
Abstain, conflict of interest.
Tamarkin.
Yes.
Greenberg.
No.
It's a tie. Fails.
Fails.
Did you call my vote?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Hicks.
No. So the application fails. So the next section of the agenda is unfinished business. Ms. McGuire, do we have any unfinished business to consider?
We do not.
Is there any new business? And could you clarify the change to the agenda regarding the Creekside variance? Is that delayed, or did they remove it? I
The
apologize.
applicant has been ill,
Okay.
and so she requested that it be moved to the next meeting.
Okay, very good, thank you. Mr. Roth, anything from the Assistant City Attorney's desk to report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a rarity, I saw an article today. The city of Centerville, which is a suburb of Dayton, had a application for a Sheetz gas station. In their instance, I've not read the court decision, but this was just a news article. The Planning Commission apparently said yes, but then it went in front of their city council, and city council said no. Sheetz did a 2506 appeal to, they don't have an environmental court there, so it went to their common pleas court, and the common pleas court said, reversed what city council did and said they have to allow the Sheetz. That's my report.
All right, thank you. Planning Department, any comments for us?
Good evening. No comments other than great to see all these familiar faces back for 2025, and we look forward to another productive year. And I believe we have just the one item on the next agenda, which would be the continuation of Skin and Sugar. So, thank you.
Mr. Blackford, is there a workshop scheduled in the upcoming weeks?
Sophia
There
might
is
be
a
able to-
joint workshop between council and planning commission on the 21st, I believe, 6 PM. That will be in the committee room.
Very good. Thank you for that. Council liaison. Anything from council that we should be aware of? Anyone? A joint session is scheduled, we heard that. The mayor has gone on to her other organizational meetings, so, and as chair, want to say thanks again for allowing me the privilege to chair this commission. Looking forward to a great year. Are there any correspondences or actions that we needed to address?
No, sir.
We'll now turn it back over to the commission for closing comments. Mr. Greenberg, you're full of comments today.
I'm happy, Mr. Hicks, that you joined us as chair. Appreciate that. And Ms. Pollier as vice chair, congratulations. A well-run meeting tonight.
Any closing remarks from anyone else? Mr. Mako.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, thank you to Mr. Hicks for serving as chair. Thank you to Ms. Pollier for serving as vice chair and stepping up to be council liaison. I know you'll do a good job. And I do want to thank my colleagues for last year for allowing me to be chair. Hopefully I didn't mess up too much. But it was a good experience. And again, thank you, and just looking forward to a good year. Thank you.
All right, hearing no other final remarks, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you.